Okay, good morning, everybody. So my presentation is time series offset estimation. And I just want to take a minute before I start to acknowledge David Phillips and Justine, who were so helpful to me at UNAVCO, and also Bill Hammond at the University of Nevada, Reno. This is a real collaborative project between UNAVCO and UNR, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without their guidance. So, time series offset estimation. What does that mean? What is an offset? So GPS data can measure changes in position at a given location on the Earth's crust over time, and that is usually plotted as what is called a time series. And a step or an offset in a time series is a sharp, immediate change that generally presents itself as a discontinuity in the time series. So on the figure to the right, we have three components, east, north, and up. And it might be kind of obvious where the discontinuity is, but I'll just put a circle. This is an example of a step from a station offshore Japan. And this step is actually the Tohoku earthquake. So offsets and steps are usually caused by equipment changes, which we generally know when they occur because there's a technician who logs the time and information, and also from earthquakes, which are sometimes obvious, like this one. Sometimes they're more subtle. So here's an example from offshore Alaska, and there's the northeast and up components this time, and perhaps it's not quite as obvious, but there is a step on the east that you can see better than anything else, and it's not very large. And if I didn't tell you, you might not know there's actually multiple steps on these time series. So it becomes really important to find a way to estimate how big a change there is, or what you could call the magnitude of the offset, and where those offsets occur, especially for earthquakes. So, like I said already, this is a collaborative effort between UNAVCO and UNR. And what we really wanted to do during my project was to create a data product that combines offset information for earthquakes or for equipment changes using both UNAVCO data and UNR data on the same table. This gets a little complicated because they don't necessarily do things the same way. UNAVCO makes, they double check all their time series if there's a step flag, and they hand check and go, yes, there's a step here, no, there's a step, or no, there isn't a step. UNR has so many stations that they don't put that personal attention into every single step. So that kind of changes already the type of data that we're trying to put on the table. Second, UNAVCO provides public data products for all their offset magnitudes, how much it changes or it jumps on a time series, whereas UNR keeps that data internal. So we want to bring that out into the open and provide it to everyone. Now this image here is just an example of what an offset looks like on the surface. Because we're geoscientists, and there is an effect of these things that you can see. So don't forget when I'm showing you all of these graphs and programs. So like I already mentioned, there were some challenges incorporating UNR data and UNAVCO data, which I abbreviate here as PBO, which is the Plate Boundary Observatory, which is the network that UNAVCO so wonderfully runs. The data itself, the time series, there are differences in how it's processed, so that affects, it shouldn't affect necessarily where the offsets are, but it might affect the magnitude. And how they process these offsets are also different. So UNR uses a lot of MATLAB code, and UNAVCO uses a lot of scripting, like Perl scripting and shell scripting. And making these things work together, for me, was a big learning curve. This is how I would describe it. I was trying to hammer something that would fit into what I wanted to do. So that was my own personal challenge. Another thing I should mention in this figure is it not only shows slight differences in the positions of the time series between UNAVCO and PBO, but it also shows that not all the offsets are the same. So in the final outcome, the final table, you'll notice that there aren't necessarily the same events that are noticed, which I'll show you right now. So this is the product. This is 8 weeks of work. Hopefully this works for more than just the station, but this is an example. On the left in the purple shows the station, which is how it's organized. The columns in red show different date types or ways you can look at it. Then we finally get to the crux of the matter, which is the offset. UNR is in blue. It shows it in east, north, and up components. PBO is in orange. And you might notice that they're not exactly the same because they're not necessarily processed the same. But it's really interesting to be able to compare these two things and see how they differ. In the green and yellow, there are the uncertainties for the time series offset position. And then I also included the step type, whether or not it's an earthquake marked EQ or antenna, or equipment change marked AN for antenna. And then finally, the USGS earthquake ID, which is a unique code for any given earthquake event, if there is one. So comparing the two is going to lead to a lot of interesting things, and also comparing how things are different. For example, the east, north, and up components for this particular event, they mark as opposite step directions. So one's going up where it says the other one is going down, which these differences are exciting. And it could be, as much as this might look like a regular table, it's actually a potentially transformative data product. So everyone gets excited because there's more to come. So future work, there's a lot left to do, which I can't really get into right now. I have a laundry list of things waiting for me back at UNR where I go to school, and hopefully I get a vacation before then. But the most important thing, the thing I really need to stress, is that hopefully we can bring on some further collaboration between UNAVCO and UNR, because we're both such big providers of data to the community, and working together is so important. This table, as simple as it looks, is really just the single step for a journey of 1,000 miles. So hopefully we can continue the work in the future. Thank you.
Okay, great. Any questions?
The table that so this you changed the datum into the same both.
These, yes, I didn't go over that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
These are processed using IGS-08 reference frame, which is it's reference from the Center of Mass for the Earth for people who might not be aware. North American data frame, UNR and UNAVCO use different ones, so we can't compare them in the reference frame, unfortunately, yet. Who knows what will happen in the future.
So I'm sorry if you addressed this. So why are some of the rows blank for PBO when UNR has information?
Yeah, the way that UNR calculates its earthquake offsets is different from the way PBO does. The radius of potential influence of an earthquake is not necessarily the same. So you can't compare things that aren't the same, or events that don't exist on both tables. So that's part of the problem. And it's kind of illustrated in this time series. So the red lines are PBO offset times per step, and the blue lines are offset times for UNR. And in this instance, UNR and PBO, they overlap for the red line, but you can tell that PBO doesn't always overlap. It doesn't always have the offsets at the same time. So there's not going to be data in every column of the table. Doug. Sorry.
Did you do any comparison between non-step,
Between what, I'm sorry?
regular tracking when there's not steps?
No.
If there's any differences there.
I'm sure there are differences, but that was not the focus of my presentation. Oh my goodness.
Is this table available to the public yet?
No, not yet. I actually have to troubleshoot a couple things. It's a work in progress, but soon, hopefully soon.
And where are you going to make it available?
Good question, David.
Working on that as well. The idea, I'll just say real quick, part of the collaboration is that UNAVCO right now, for example, provides not only the UNAVCO solutions to the community, but the UNR ones through web services and other things we've done in the past. The idea is that as UNR, through Justine's work and others, makes these products more available to the community, not just internal, you could ideally get it from either UNR or UNAVCO, whichever normal place you normally get your products. But that's a work in progress also.
Great. Thanks, Justine.